Hi, this is Bob Samuels of TechConnectr, and I'm happy to be with Scott Brinker, the creator and the superstar behind the MarkTech conference. So, Scott, it's a pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, great to connect with you, Bob.
I always look forward to your conference every year. It's fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
So what year number are we on?
Wow, it started in 2014. So yeah, this will be the 7th year.
And then counting the East and West Coast is probably the 10th event or 12th event.
Yeah, somewhere along those lines. Wow, man, how time flies.
Wow. And your map has changed. Your famous MarkTech landscape map has changed from a few hundred to a few thousand.
Yep, pretty much every year since I started that, people have been assuring me it was going to consolidate, and at least not yet. I'm sure that's what everyone's hoping this year again. Like, please, for the love of God, just consolidate it. But no spoiler alerts. But I think we've got ways to go still.
No spoiler. And by the way, I am going to share your crowdsource link for folks that if they belong on the map or if they know people on the map that should be on there to contribute to the wisdom on it.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent. So MarkTech conference is coming up. What's going to be new this year? Same old stuff?
Wow, I think MarkTech is one of those categories where there's never the same old stuff, right? Just so many new things happening, coming out. We actually added a 4th editorial track this year. So we're like breaking breakout sessions into a whole set on just marketing operations, and not just the technology there, but really sort of the management of marketing operations and how teams get organized and built and the process around that. We'll do a whole track on marketing data, both from an analytics perspective, but also, sort of customer data management. Like, for instance, David Robb, everybody knows, customer data platform guru, is going to do a great session on really describing second-party data, which has become sort of, the one we don't hear enough about in all the hype around, first-party versus third-party. We'll have a whole track on, of course, it's a MarkTech show, marketing technology, really digging into, just some of the more advanced uses of this technology. Like, for one example, the head of marketing technology at Thomson Reuters is really going to do a deep dive into, okay, how do you do like unified enterprise workflow, across all these different tools? And the folks at DocuSign are going to pull up the covers of, how they apply machine learning to lead scoring and stuff like that. And then the last track will be marketing orchestration, which is really looking at cases where trying to rise above the technology itself, and really looking at a lot of case studies of how this gets integrated into delivering great marketing programs. Give a shout out, for instance, to Kelly Waffle, from Hinge, who's going to do a whole thing on account-based marketing and how MarkTech can help with that. I could go on forever. It's chock full of fun sessions and learning. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was looking for Apollos to kind of jump in and do a deeper dive on some of this. So tell me about second party data, because people talk about third party, talk about first party. What's second party?
Well, this should probably, defer to David and his actual sessions
we'll come to the session and find out.
But the high level one is, okay, so first party is the data that, a company collects directly with its customers. Third party, frankly, is stuff that's largely available on an open market, right? I mean, you can get it.
Public information.
Yeah, well, it's not quite public information, but it's available, broadly, through these networks. That you don't have to have individual relationships with each other company in that network. There are third-party distributors who are helping to, aggregate that data and distribute it. Second-party data is really saying, okay, well, particularly in a world where third-party data, is got a lot of question marks around, just ongoing, regulations, things that are happening with the browsers, around third-party cookies. Second-party data is saying, okay, well, what if you had a small set of companies that actually have direct relationships with each other, and so it's maybe, to the extreme, it could be, these partnerships and co-marketing arrangements, but it could be a lighter thing of saying, hey, listen, we have complementary offerings. We have complementary relationships between our businesses and our respective customers. Can we work together, fully within the transparency of, customers agreeing to this, to be able to share data, or to even just be able to share targeting, for certain kind of messaging across us, and so it's a much more controlled environment than, just, an open third-party data market.
So is it triangulating onto someone else's first-party data?
Exactly. So it's like a series of people who each have their own first-party data, and they found a way to work together.
So it's a co-op.
Kind of, and I think a lot of it comes down to scale. It's part of what seems to make those co-ops work is they have a relatively narrow scope. Because otherwise, if it just gets too big, then, it starts to blend back,
to
into third party. Yeah.
Beautiful. I like that. I'll go attend this presentation. That sounds great. So let's see. So as far as coordination between sales and marketing, so the conference is certainly named MarkTech, but it also sounds like you're getting more into the processes too, the human processes and human interactions and so forth, not just technology.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have some great discussions, probably in the marketing operations track, which you could probably rename to revenue operations, because it really is the case that for a lot of companies now, they're not thinking of marketing operations in isolation from sales operations, in isolation from, say, customer success operations. They really are trying to get, even at the ops level, these teams, if they're not unified, to at least be collaborating in a very direct and open way. Because again, from the customer journey perspective, people, the funnel is dead. People just keep, any customer journey can take any wild, path, and it can happen very quickly, and if you've got sort of your data and processes around their experience, siloed within these departments, it just, it becomes a barrier to delivering a great experience.
I like the way you said that. The funnel is dead. There's no one path.
Sorry to any funnel lovers out there, my apologies.
That's too funny. I was just getting used to it. I like it.
It's easy to draw.
Yeah, I like it. Pretty colors and all that.
Yeah.
Content, personalized content, targeting, making content relevant for the person and the persona that's being outreach to. I imagine there's some focus on that to some extent. Content.
Yeah.
Content targeting. What I personally want to see is as much, for me, if someone's going to be messaging to me, I want it to be something that speaks to me. They'll get my attention because it knows what I like and so it talks to me differently than it talks to you, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I think the reality is behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes into making that happen. First and foremost, it's getting the right data to really be able to identify, different segments, different clusters, different content, affinity for different content, for different clusters, of prospects and customers, and there's a certain amount of machine learning that then usually gets applied to identifying those clusters, whether that's built into a product that you're using commercially, or in some cases, like, some of the folks we'll hear from, like DocuSign and, Lyft, they've sort of rolled some of their own technology to really hone in on that. But the truth, go ahead.
I was going to say that gets to be a little spooky to me because they're not reading my documents, right?
Oh, good God, no. Yeah, of course not. No. But
if they did, they find out good information to target me on. But that's that's just too good.
Yeah.
That's there's the whole privacy and GDPR, and there's a whole privacy thing that we keep bumping into because you want to get as much targeting as possible, but there's some boundaries.
Yes. Oh, no, no, absolutely. Yeah. I'm talking actually in their marketing funnel, before someone even signs up to be using DocuSign, like
Yeah.
identifying as they become prospects and what would be the features of DocuSign that would be attractive to them, what sort of case studies or stories would be helpful. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's great. So does privacy come up at the event at all? Because and like you mentioned, there's cookie issues too.
yeah. So at a couple levels, we'll actually have a whole session just on this. I love the title for it. It's called Privacy Security Prison, Pick Two. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a ton happening there. But to be honest, actually, this year it's less of just specialized sessions on that, and it's more about just embedding that in a lot of the other discussions. I mean, again, like if you think about how marketing ops teams are now managing their stack and sort of providing that governance, to how the marketing organization is using data. Yeah, sort of privacy management and compliance there is being really just sort of built in to their processes. So I think we'll hear a lot about that from less from the legal people and now more from the ops people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And when you were saying a lot of the targeting and the getting the right messaging to people has to do with learning how those people, you said what news they consume or whatever, but also maybe the means and how they consume. Do they like to receive calls? Do they like to get emails? Do they like to read blogs? Do they like to read certain websites? How should you reach out to them? And besides what to say and when to say it.
Yeah, all of those feed into this. So it's definitely, and we can't forget, I mean, all right, so there's identifying the audience, there's identifying the channel, there's identifying which content's right for them. But it's not like the problem that marketers have always wrestled with has gone away, which is, by the way, that content we create for them has to be really good. And so, that's always something I'm always cautious when, MarTech discussions happen around personalized content of, yeah, the technology is pretty amazing, but it's not creating the content for you. You still have to, have a really amazing team on that side of it.
Well, that's the thing. There's no magic button as far as something that's going to create content for you. That's what I wanted.
Which is good, right? Otherwise, half of marketing would be out of a job. Yeah. So
yeah.
Celebrate it. Embrace it.
Yeah. You can get some very sophisticated tools out there, but as far as what to say, you gotta be able to figure it out. So that's a tricky thing. I'm waiting for that technology.
Yeah, probably in our lifetimes, but yeah,
not
this year.
It's getting there. So so the data is good. It used to be you want good contact data. Now the intent data, the install base data. The more you know about someone, the more you can be more specific to them. Knowing who to market to. A lot of the ABM marketing is more focused at current customers versus getting new customers. Even though it's called account-based marketing, it's really trying to upsell and land and expand sort of stuff. That's where it gets to be pretty powerful, or certainly more monetarily achievable quickly.
Well, I think even for people who aren't officially doing an ABM strategy, yeah, this whole recognition of customer marketing in general, that marketing has such opportunity to play a role in customer retention and customer delight, and so the historical focus on more, all at the top of that funnel that we killed off earlier in the show, but the opportunities you have with people who are already customers is huge. And so I think, yeah, you're absolutely right that, a lot of what gets tossed into the bucket of ABM is actually, kind of a variation of customer marketing in a very targeted way. And clearly the impact that's having, the results that's having on, the outcomes just continue to improve.
Yeah. And my world is B2B. I always assume everybody else is too, but what is the mix at your conference?
It's somewhere 50-50. We try and bring folks in from both sides. So like some of the B2C folks we'll have there will be, well, like Lyft, Verizon, some of the folks like, um, who's, Tony Ralph. Yeah, one of our keynotes, who's the VP of marketing product at Walmart e-commerce. So we try and bring in the mix, partly because I believe while B2C and B2B are different in some fundamental ways still, I think there's such opportunity for cross-pollination of learning between those marketers. And in some of the other shows that get structured out there, it's usually all B2B or all e-commerce. And I kind of like to mix between those audiences. I think they learn a lot from each other.
I like it too, because I've had my taste of B2C, and B2C is way ahead as far as technology goes over B2B. It's a lot to learn from B2C as a B2B.
Man, there is a lot for all of us to learn. Never a dull moment in marketing these days.
You've got a great attitude. So what do you see? What are we going to be talking about at next year's conference? What are we going to talk about in 5 years from now at that conference?
Wow, man, that's hard to predict.
How many companies are going to be on the grid?
That's hard to predict too. I will say the biggest challenge I have with the grid is deciding where the cutoff is. And I mean that in two ways. First of all, I mean it like, okay, category-wise, what constitutes marketing? Because marketing is now embedding itself, deeper into customer service. It's embedding itself deeper into actual digital product. So there's a lot of, just sort of almost philosophical questions.
Customer retention
marketing
stuff.
Or something else. Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is, we're seeing more and more of these companies in MarkTech and in SaaS in general that are really becoming true platforms. And so they now have these ecosystems of other people developing add-on software on top of theirs. I mean, WordPress is sort of like one of the classic examples. I mean, there's something like 60,000 WordPress plugins out there. Now granted, most of them, probably a whole bunch are defunct and a bunch don't matter. But the reality is there are thousands of active WordPress plugins. And at some point you're like, okay, well, does that count as a piece of MarkTech software? And why or why not, at what scale? So these are the things that keep me up at night, right?
The list could be huge just now if you didn't have those boundaries set. Probably.
Yeah, and setting the boundaries is sort of like a random act of like, I think we'll draw the line here. So it's an adventure.
So what are we talking about in 1 year, 5 years from now? What's it gonna look like?
Well, there could be any number of things. I think the one idea I will plant the seed for is I'm really excited by these tools that they call they sort of put together this category of things like citizen developers and citizen data analysts. It's these tools that basically let non-technical people create apps or create sophisticated data analysis or integrate products together just by dragging and dropping things between them. I think that stuff is really amazing, like this huge democratization of technology power. And, I mean, there's lots of examples out there today, but to be honest, I feel like that market is still very early. And I think if we play this out over 5 years, wow, the capabilities that any marketer will have at their fingertips is just going to blow people's minds.
That's a very good, I'm glad I asked you that question. That's a good one. Beautiful. Any other thoughts or words of wisdom or advice about if people are coming to the event?
Take a deep breath and have fun. I mean, there's, I think the challenge everyone in marketing faces today, and I do mean everyone, is there's just so much going on in this industry, and no one, can get their arms around all of it. That's okay. It's not about getting your arms around all of it. What's looking at is, picking opportunities as you come across them, as you think of them strategically, to just keep improving what we're delivering to our customers and what we're delivering to the business. I really do believe there's never been a better time to be a marketer.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Scott, it's a pleasure as always. I look forward to seeing you. It's going to be a great event.
I'm looking forward to seeing you too. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Take care.